You stand by the window, a cup of coffee in hand. Outside, the rain begins to fall not harshly, just quietly, like a gentle reminder from nature. Rain can soak your clothes, but it only truly chills you when you let it seep into your mind. Life is the same. The uncertainties, the losses, they're just passing rain showers. They can't touch you unless you open the door and let them flood your thoughts. How many times have you found yourself collapsing, not because the world was too cruel, but because your mind wasn't strong enough to stay upright in the storm? Imagine this. If you could master your thoughts, stay calm amid chaos, and not let your emotions override your reason, what could ever truly hurt you? The outside world holds no real power over us if the inner self is well trained. A strong mind is the most unbreakable fortress. When you learn to control your reactions, you stop being a victim of circumstance and start becoming the author of your destiny. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And that is where the journey of training the mind in the spirit of Stoicism begins. 1. Dichotomy of control, distinguishing between controllable and uncontrollable. It's raining. Each heavy drop hits the awning with a steady rhythm, like a reminder that we don't control this world. But in your hands is a warm cup of coffee, just enough to soften the chill sneaking in through the cracks. That contrast between the cold outside and the warmth inside mirrors the first principle of Stoicism. No matter what happens externally, your mind can remain steady if you train it well. And the first step in that journey is understanding what's in your control and what isn't. In Stoicism, this is called the dichotomy of control. It's the central pillar, the root of all other Stoic thought. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us." Simple, but perhaps one of the hardest truths to live by, especially when your mind is flooded with anxiety. Pause for a few seconds and really think about that line. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. So why do we keep letting worry eat into our sleep, our conversations, our waiting hours? The root of anxiety is that we try to control what doesn't belong to us. We worry about what others think of us. We worry about the outcome of an interview, an exam, a confession. We want everything within reach, but the world doesn't work like a remote control. It's complex, chaotic, and sadly, yet also freeing. It's not under our control. Take Jack's story, a final year student on the brink of adulthood. After years of hard work, he finally gets a chance to interview at his dream company. Jack prepares everything he can. He studies the company inside out, practices common questions, even rehearses in front of a mirror to fine-tune his tone and facial expressions. He walks into the interview focused, determined to prove himself. But once it's over, that waiting period becomes the real test. Jack falls into a spiral of thoughts. He replays every answer, tries to read the interviewer's expression, rewinds the entire scene as if he could change the result. He loses sleep. He worries. He feels powerless because the thing he's clinging to is no longer in his hands. What Jack is doing is letting his mind latch onto something he can't control. The outcome, like all outcomes in life, isn't his anymore. It depends on the hiring committee, the other candidates, even the interviewer's mood that day. The only thing Jack still owns is his mindset, his response to not knowing. If Jack truly understood the dichotomy of control, he would realize this. He's already done his part. He prepared thoroughly. He showed up with sincerity. The rest is no longer in his hands. And because of that, there's no reason to beat himself up. Stoicism doesn't ask us to be indifferent or to stop trying. On the contrary, it demands radical ownership of what we do, control our actions, our words, our choice of response. But at the same time, it teaches us a different kind of strength, the strength of acceptance. Acceptance that many things in life won't go our way. And that's okay, because here's the simple but powerful truth. Once you anchor yourself in your own actions, 80% of your anxiety starts to disappear on its own. A mind that clearly understands the boundary of its responsibility is a mind that doesn't torment itself. No emotional storm can shake someone who knows, I've done my part, the rest I let go. The problem is we're not taught to think this way. The education system, social media, even advice from friends, all of it revolves around outcomes. Did you achieve it? Did you succeed? What do people think? But Stoicism is a quiet voice that cuts through the noise. Come back to yourself, your behavior that's the only real job you have in this life. This isn't a mindset of avoidance. It's a mindset of liberation. It helps you focus completely on what you can actually influence and gently set down the burdens you can't do anything about except to wait or to release. That's how you keep the warmth in your soul, even when life is cold and uncertain like a rainy morning. 2. Reframing. Everything is training material. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This isn't just a philosophical motto, it's a way of living. It's a perspective that sees life as one vast training ground, where everything from anger and failure to sorrow is a weight you lift, breath by breath, day by day. Reframing cognitive restructuring is the core skill of a Stoic mind. When you begin to see obstacles as training material, everything that once felt like it was working against you suddenly becomes your ally. This isn't blind optimism. It's the ability to transform negative situations into opportunities for inner growth. A failure stops being a dead end. It becomes a message. There's still a lesson you haven't finished learning. Take the story of American track and field athlete Allison Felix, a symbol not only of speed, but of resilience and inner reinvention. In 2016, just months before the Olympic trials for Rio, she suffered a severe ankle injury. At over 30 years old, an age many consider past the peak of an athletic career, this could have been the end. But Felix didn't see it that way. Instead of sitting still and lamenting her misfortune, she shifted her focus from competition to reconstruction. During her recovery, she didn't just treat the injury, she did what many athletes neglect. She strengthened the small, stabilizing muscles, improved flexibility, and refined her movement mechanics. Alongside her team, she reanalyzed her race strategy, shifting from high-risk sprints to a more controlled, enduring style. She didn't just recover, she came back stronger. At the World Championships in 2017 and 2019, she continued to win gold medals. And by 2022, she retired with 11 Olympic medals, making her the most decorated track and field Olympian in history. She didn't succeed despite adversity. She succeeded because she learned and grew through it. That is the essence of Stoic strength, turning hardship into training. If your mind isn't trained, adversity can crush you with loss, insecurity, and disappointment. But if your mind is trained well, you won't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, you'll ask, "What lesson is hidden inside this moment?" That question, simple yet hard to answer when everything feels chaotic, is the key that unlocks the door from reaction to reflection. Imagine being rejected after a job interview. The disappointment, the embarrassment, it can weigh you down for an entire week. But if you have the patience to ask, "What lesson is hidden in this situation?" you might discover that you didn't research the company well enough, that your communication skills need improvement, or simply that the opportunity wasn't right for you at this moment. All of it, if you're willing to see, can be fuel for growth. Redefining setbacks doesn't happen in one sitting. It's a habit. Just like muscles need resistance to grow, the mind needs adversity to toughen up. The crucial part is this: don't let adversity define you. You redefine adversity. That is the power of reframing. That is the moment the obstacle becomes the path. But this isn't some magical promise that everything happens for a beautiful reason. Stoicism doesn't lull you into comfort. It demands that you stay sharp, take initiative, and remain disciplined with your mind. It forces you to face reality, but not fear it. And through that, you don't grow because life gets easier. You grow because you learn to turn difficulty into development. Remember the words of Marcus Aurelius: "What stands in the way becomes the way." Easy to read, harder to live by. To embody that quote, you have to turn every stumble into a step forward, every failure into a lesson, every day, good or bad, into a workout for the mind. Are you struggling? Good. That's your test. That's your training material. Take a deep breath, write down the lesson, and keep moving stronger, clearer, more grounded. That's the art of reframing. When you choose to see differently, the world shifts with you. But if reframing is how you respond after something happens, then negative visualization, intentional negative thinking, is how you mentally prepare before it does. Sounds counter to everything you've been taught about positive thinking, doesn't it? In the next part, you'll see why the ancient Stoics deliberately imagined the worst-case scenario and how that practice helped them live more peacefully, happily, and resiliently than most of us today. Imagine the worst, and then live your best. 3. Negative visualization, thinking the worst to live the best. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, Blue Bottle Coffee, a renowned American specialty coffee brand, was at the peak of its success. Every week they were opening new stores in Tokyo and Seoul and preparing for deeper expansion into the European market. Their cafes were always packed, the media praised them, and investors were eager. Then COVID-19 struck like a dark storm. Lockdowns paralyzed their entire retail system. While many other brands struggled or even went bankrupt, Brian Meehan, CEO of Blue Bottle, did not panic. He and his leadership team returned to a core Stoic principle: prepare for the worst. They restructured the entire operation back to its startup roots, filming videos manually, packing coffee in a small warehouse, training employees like a special forces unit. They didn't wait for the new normal. They trained themselves to master the abnormal. When the world reopened, Blue Bottle didn't just survive, they surged ahead. Because in their minds, they had already lived through the crisis long before it happened. This wasn't just a business strategy, it was a vivid expression of an ancient Stoic mindset: negative visualization, imagining loss, hardship, even disaster as a way to live better. It may sound paradoxical, even pessimistic, but in truth, it's a method to train your mind so that nothing can truly harm you because you've already prepared for it. Stoics don't advocate for pessimism. They teach us not to rely on hope alone, but to equip our minds with a shield of readiness. When you imagine that one day you might lose what you have, your job, your loved ones, your health, every present moment becomes more vivid, more precious. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and philosopher, once wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This isn't meant to frighten us, but to wake us up. Wake us up to live without delay, to love without hesitation, and to realize that everything we have today could be gone tomorrow, so we should never take it for granted. In practice, many people have applied this as a psychological exercise, imagining each morning what it would feel like to lose their job, their reputation, or someone they love. At first, the feeling is heavy, but gradually we learn to sit with that feeling like a friend, not letting it consume us, but letting it teach us to live with greater awareness. Not to live in fear, but to live with strength. Just like a warrior who trains with twice the weight. So when real battle comes, every challenge feels lighter. And the amazing thing is this: when you visualize the worst-case scenario in advance, you also learn how to transform your emotions instead of being ruled by them. Instead of panicking when risks arise, you'll find yourself thinking, I've thought about this before, and your response becomes deliberate, not reactive. Someone once asked, "Does imagining negative outcomes make us live with a negative mindset?" The answer is, if you do it to avoid reality, then yes. But if you do it to strengthen your inner world, the opposite happens. You'll live more positively than ever. In a world full of uncertainty, the average person hopes things will be okay. But the Stoic quietly trains their mind to be okay, even when things aren't. That is the difference. When you train yourself to accept the worst, even if only in your imagination, you're also giving yourself the power to live freely. Free from fear, free from shock, free from unrealistic expectations. That kind of freedom is the foundation of an unshakable inner life. So take a few minutes each day. Imagine that tomorrow you might lose something important, and then look at your life now and realize you still have it. A phone call, a smile, a quiet afternoon. You don't have to do anything grand. Just recognize that you're living in the presence of something you once thought you couldn't bear to lose, and then you'll start to live differently. What do you think about the practice of negative visualization? Have you ever tried it? Share your experience or what you're most afraid to lose in the comments. Who knows? That might just be the first step to valuing it even more. 4. Voluntary hardship. Voluntarily doing difficult things. Have you ever taken a cold shower on a winter morning, even though no one told you to? Not for your health, not because it's trendy, just to discipline yourself to willingly step into discomfort and see how long you can endure it. It might sound silly, but in Stoic philosophy, that small act reflects a deeply powerful principle: voluntary hardship. A Stoic doesn't wait for adversity to come knocking to learn resilience. They build discipline deliberately in everyday life by facing intentional discomforts, waking up at 5 a.m., walking instead of taking a ride, eating plainly despite having access to more. This isn't extreme asceticism, it's mental training. A way to develop a reflex. When hardship comes, you're already familiar with it. You can't control the weather. It might rain just as you're stepping out, derailing your plans. You can't fully control other people either. Your colleague might misunderstand you. Your boss might criticize you harshly, or unexpected work could keep you late. But there's one thing you can always control: your reaction. You can choose to snap and blame, or pause, breathe, and respond calmly. It's not easy, but it can be trained. The Stoics called this spiritual responsibility. No blaming, no panicking. Just standing firm like a tree in the wind. A rainstorm doesn't ruin your whole day unless you let it. A harsh comment doesn't define who you are unless you believe it. The world will always be full of things outside your control. But your mind, if you train it, is always your territory. And if you've already endured the cold of the morning, if you've walked 8 kilometers by choice like Jack Dorsey, former Twitter CEO, used to do every week, then when real adversity hits, your nervous system won't be shocked. You've been preparing in the side arena, so when you step onto the main stage, you do so with grounded strength. Jack Dorsey once said, walking to work was his way of reminding himself that comfort is not a default. When you train yourself to live without certain things, comfort, safety, control, you learn not to depend on them. You cultivate a sense of sufficiency from within. In a time where everything is optimized for ease, the idea of voluntarily doing hard things may sound counterintuitive. But that's exactly what gives it power. You can spend your life avoiding discomfort, or you can train yourself to become unshakable, composed under pressure. That's the inner freedom Stoicism aims for. No one can take away your peace unless you hand it over. Taking on small difficulties, day after day, not to prove anything, but to listen to that deeper part of yourself that wants to be stronger than yesterday. No one sees you waking up at 5 a.m. No one claps when you take the stairs instead of the elevator, but you know. And that knowing is the foundation of quiet strength. Voluntary hardship also helps soften the shock of life's sudden changes. When you're used to choosing the hard path, obstacles feel less like ambushes. Like weight training, no one lifts 100 kilograms on the first try. Likewise, you can't expect yourself to stay calm through losing a job, a breakup, or a crisis if you haven't trained your mind under small, daily pressure. Of course, this kind of training doesn't have to be physical. For many, the hard thing might be speaking the truth in a conversation, saying no to an inappropriate invitation, or sitting still without checking your phone for an hour. Everyone has a different threshold. What matters is choosing something that's not easy and sticking to it without needing validation. Voluntary hardship doesn't promise you'll become invincible, but it does promise this: you won't be caught off guard when the challenge comes. You won't collapse because you've already laid the groundwork. And even if no one witnesses your training, the results will speak loud and clear in the calm, steady way you face what makes others break. So, once we've trained ourselves through these small, chosen difficulties, once we're ready to walk into real adversity, can we go one step further? Can we learn to love adversity itself? That's the next Stoic philosophy, challenging, yet profoundly beautiful. Amor fati. Stay tuned for part 2. 5. Amor fati. Loving adversity. J.K. Rowling couldn't afford to pay her electricity bill. All she had in her hands was a manuscript that had been rejected by 12 publishers. Each rejection letter felt like a cut into her dream, but instead of giving up, she turned them into fuel to keep writing. She didn't just endure failure, she embraced it. Because it was failure that sharpened every sentence in Harry Potter, the book that transformed children's literature and the lives of millions of readers. That is amor fati. Not just a philosophical concept, but a deep-seated way of living. To love fate, especially the harshest parts of it. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, no stranger to illness, poverty, and misunderstanding, once wrote, "Amor fati, my formula for greatness in a human being, is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." This isn't passive acceptance. Nietzsche wasn't saying, "Well, I guess that's just how it is." He wanted you to love what has happened, as if there could be no better version of your life, not even in pain, failure, or loss. This mindset is also a cornerstone of Stoicism, a philosophy that Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius practiced daily in his meditative journals. Marcus didn't just face plague, war, and betrayal. He learned to turn adversity into training for the soul. In Meditations, he wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. Suffering doesn't block the path, it becomes the fuel, like dry wood for a fire." But how do you love adversity when it's crushing you? The answer doesn't come from feelings, it comes from mental discipline. The Stoics didn't love adversity because it was pleasant. They loved it because it was unavoidable truth and an irreplaceable opportunity. Every time we hit hardship, a rejection, a failure, an illness, we're given a chance to see what we actually control, our response, our mindset, or ourselves. The dichotomy of control, the line between what we can and cannot control, is the foundation. But amor fati goes further. It's actively welcoming what we don't control, as if it were tailor-made to help us grow. So don't rush to get over hardship. Pause and look it in the eye. Ask yourself, if this is a gift wrapped in pain, what is the lesson inside? Just like J.K. Rowling once said in her famous Harvard speech, "It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all." You can't strengthen the soul with theory. It requires experience and intentional reflection. One of the most effective ways to practice the spirit of amor fati is to write a gratitude journal for adversity. It doesn't have to be long, just one sentence a day. "Thank you for firing me because that's how I started my own project. Thank you for leaving because that's how I learned to stand on my own." At first it may feel forced, but just like going to the gym, your brain needs to lift new ways of thinking. You're training yourself to see light in the darkness, and in doing so, to stand firm no matter what comes. No one likes pain. But pain, if used well, is the quietest teacher. It doesn't lecture, it forces you to listen to yourself. And when you begin to love the parts of you that you once tried to avoid, you become untouchable. Not because you escape the storm, but because you've learned to walk through it with gratitude. Have you ever faced an adversity that in hindsight you're thankful for? Try writing one line in the comments, "Thank you X, because it helped me." You never know, your words might be the spark that lights the way for someone who's feeling lost. 6. Journaling. Talking to yourself. It's raining. I sit by the window, the sound of raindrops tapping on the roof like the steady breathing of a day fully lived. On the table sits a still warm cup of coffee and a small notebook I always carry with me. It's not some overly emotional diary, but a space where I, just as Marcus Aurelius once did, have conversations with myself. Every evening the Roman emperor would write, not for others to read, but for himself to reflect. It was his way of adjusting the lens of perception to see clearly what is truth and what is merely the illusion of the mind. Marcus Aurelius didn't write to show off, nor to complain. He wrote to remember how he lived each day, how he responded to adversity, and above all, he wrote so he wouldn't repeat the same mistakes. He asked himself, what part of this is within my control? What part isn't? That is Stoicism in its purest form, compressed into a few lines, yet enough to serve as a compass for the soul. A sales rep just missed out on closing a major deal after chasing the client for an entire week. Instead of pouring his frustration into a beer or ranting in a midnight group chat, he opened his notebook and wrote just 3 lines. The first, the client declined because they weren't convinced of the product's value. The second, I'm disappointed and feeling discouraged. And the third, the turning point. It's not the rejection that hurts, but how I interpret it. I can control my ability to improve listening skills. 3 lines. He wrapped a failure into a lesson. 3 months later, he became the top performer on the team, not because of luck, but because of those quiet, honest nights with himself. Journaling doesn't require you to be a writer, nor does your life need to be dramatic. All it asks for is a nightly commitment, just a few minutes, to pause and have a conversation. Because when you write down your thoughts, you pull them out of the emotional spiral, where everything is exaggerated. Writing slows you down, and when you slow down, you begin to see things more clearly. This practice, when cultivated into a habit, becomes a gym for the soul. Each sentence is a weight lifted. You lift your awareness, your responsibility, and your ability to manage your reactions. You might not notice a difference the next day, but just like building a strong body, building a resilient mind takes time. More importantly, journaling helps you separate yourself from the wave of emotions. When you write, you're no longer the person drowning in chaos, but the one observing yourself in that chaos. You become a witness to your own life, a position of clarity and power. The Stoics don't tell you to deny your emotions. They teach you not to let emotions take the wheel. And in that sense, journaling is the co-pilot that keeps steering you back on track whenever life throws you off course. What's fascinating is this. In an age of social media, where everyone writes to be liked, journaling is a rebellious act, writing for no one to read. Writing to live deeply, not broadly. Writing to dig inward, not leap outward. And that's where the strength of your inner world is forged. Because nothing can truly harm you if your mind has been trained to observe instead of react. Journaling is the quiet yet powerful tool that helps you build that strength day by day. If you're unsure where to start today, try this simple tip. Write just 3 lines. 1. What happened? 2. How you felt. 3. A Stoic perspective on it. Do this every night. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be honest. Just like Marcus did, just like you can start doing tonight. And if writing is a way to have a conversation with yourself, then there's a higher Stoic level waiting ahead. A conversation with the world. Once your inner world is grounded, the next question isn't, how do I avoid getting hurt? But, what can I contribute to the community? Stoicism doesn't stop at the self. It expands into connection. And that's when you step into another quality stronger, more encompassing. Sympathia, belonging, service, living as part of something greater than yourself. You've been strengthening your mind every night. Now imagine what if the entire community did that too. That's what we'll talk about in the final part. 7. Sympathia, connecting and serving the community. Out there, the world remains turbulent wars, natural disasters, a flood of negative news dominating the headlines. But somewhere, there are still people quietly doing good without seeking attention. And it's in those moments that we come to realize inner strength isn't just about standing firm in the face of adversity. It's also about reaching out in the storm for someone else. That is the spirit of sympathia, a core value in Stoic philosophy that's often misunderstood. People tend to think that being Stoic means detaching from society, rejecting emotions, and living like an island. But that's the opposite of what Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, and one of the greatest Stoics emphasized when he said, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings no benefit to the bee." Stoicism doesn't teach us to isolate. On the contrary, it starts from a foundational awareness. We are not solitary beings. We are part of a larger whole, the cosmos, where every living thing is interconnected. Sympatheia, in its original Greek sense, means a profound empathy with the order of the whole, not a shallow emotional reaction, but a rational, conscious connection grounded in the understanding that everything is linked in a web of fate. This idea requires a shift in how we see the world, from me and them to us, a shared human experience of suffering and of resilience. In a remote mountain town in Kentucky, where flash floods had just wiped out most of the roads and the water supply system, I witnessed something you'd never see on the news. A group of students, no non-profit, no sponsorship, pooled their own money, bought clean water, canned food and supplies, then drove a pickup truck into the isolated area. The road in was still damaged, with landslides blocking the way. They had to carry each box by hand, passing them one by one. I met Jalen, a sophomore nursing student, just as he placed 2 large water containers on the porch of an elderly woman's home. His shirt soaked with sweat, hands red from carrying heavy loads, he still smiled softly and said, "Every time she says thank you, dear, my mind, it's like the pressure lifts, feels better than finishing a tough exam." That sentence wasn't poetic, but it embodied the Stoic spirit perfectly. Giving doesn't weaken you, it's strength training for the soul. Acts of selflessness are how we keep from being swallowed by the chaos of the world. And this doesn't contradict the idea of controlling what we can control, the dichotomy of control. Because selfless action is a conscious choice. We choose to plant good seeds in a volatile world, refusing to be swept away by collective helplessness. Helping others doesn't just ease their hardship. It keeps our own minds from being consumed by fear, doubt, and meaninglessness, which are all too quick to take hold in this era of information overload. You don't need to do anything grand. You don't need to start a charity or give up all your personal time. Sometimes, a free career coaching session for someone who feels lost, a blood donation, or a sincere message of encouragement online is enough to practice sympathia. What matters is not the scale, but the rhythm and consistency. So here's a small challenge I offer you. Once a week, do something selfless intentionally, not for photos or social media posts, but to test this one truth. Your mind will grow stronger and more peaceful after each act. This is your mental weightlifting. Just as muscles need resistance to grow, your inner strength needs the challenge of kindness, especially when no one expects you to do it. To live steadfastly doesn't mean withdrawing. Sometimes True strength is when you're strong enough to lift someone else while you're still healing yourself. The first rain of the season is about to fall, but if each of us carries a quiet flame of connection within, then no matter how cold the skies become, our inner world will stay warm enough so that no one has to shiver alone. We've explored together the 7 core tools of Stoicism, from focusing on what's within your control to sympatheia, the idea of connecting with and serving the community. As you can see, inner strength isn't a wall that shuts us off from the world. It's a bridge that lets us walk through the storm and still remain calm. Stoic philosophy isn't meant to be admired from afar. It's meant to be lived, clearly and consistently. Each principle is a chance to train your mind not once, but every single day. So, I invite you to take on a small challenge. Each day, choose one tool, apply it to a real situation in your life, and share your reflections in the comments below. Are you facing something right now that makes you feel like giving up? Among the 7 tools we've covered today, which one are you most eager to try out first? If you found this video helpful, share it. Help spread the power of inner strength to more people. And don't forget to hit subscribe, because in the next video, we'll dive into how Marcus Aurelius led an entire empire with just 3 morning rules.